So first of all, thank you so much for joining us today on this Friday morning or afternoon or night, depending on where you might be located in the world. My name is Devin Fulford. I'm the Director of Education and Content at the Davis Phinney Foundation, and I am so excited to be the host of this amazing panel today with the Davis Phinney Foundation staff. So our amazing webinar today is called Living with and Working in Parkinson's. So these are all folks who have a personal connection to Parkinson's in their life. So let's get started. I would just love to have Rebecca kick us off, and I'll just go around the screen. I'd love for all of you to tell us your name, where you're located, what your relationship to Parkinson's is, and what your role at the Davis Phinney Foundation is.
Sure, I'm happy to kick this off. So hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Reifel. I work here at the Davis Phinney Foundation in the development team. I am the events and development manager. So if you've ever been involved with Team DPF or any of our exciting events, fundraising events around the country, you may have seen my face on an email or maybe even in person. But my connection to Parkinson's is my father. He has passed away. I think my person with Parkinson's connections may be a little bit different than everyone else on this call, but my father lived with Parkinson's for about 10 years. He passed away a couple of years ago. And so he is the reason I am in this work and in this field. And I think about him every day. And I am in Louisville, Colorado. I am not at headquarters. I actually live just a few miles down the road from headquarters. Yep.
Thanks, Rebecca. How about Chris?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here with us. I'm Chris Kruger. I am the program manager for educational content. So I write a lot of the things that you read that the foundation produces. And I also do some of the video content. My connection with Parkinson's is that I live with Parkinson's. I was diagnosed in March of 2020 at a time where there was nothing else going on. So that was a really easy time. And March of 2020, I was diagnosed and I was 37 at the time. So that's my connection.
Thank you, Chris. Samantha.
Hi, everyone. So I saw somebody wrote in the chat, but my name is Sam Narciso, and I am our program associate for education and content. So if you come to our webinars, I've probably spoken to you. I am always in the chat sending you all links. I started working for the Davis Phinney Foundation about 1.5 years ago. I am from New Jersey, and my connection to Parkinson's is that my lovely father has had young onset Parkinson's since I was born. So this is my life, and it has been about almost 30 years, and he's still kicking it and possibly here. I am not positive.
Thanks, Sam. Beth.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Beth Chatterton. I am the Director of Marketing, and I'm in Centennial, Colorado. My relationship is similar to Rebecca's. My mother-in-law had Parkinson's. She was diagnosed at 48 back in 1996, I think it was. She will have been gone 15 years here next month. So she lived with it for, I think, about 20 years. She was also in Canada, so we had a little bit of a different aspect of not getting to see her all the time, but I got plenty of insight and experience with her when we did visit here and there. So shout out to all the Canadians as well. So yeah, that's who I am and my relationship to Parkinson's.
Thanks, Beth. Claudia, you're next.
Hello, everybody. My name is Claudia Martinez, and I live in Phoenix, but I am originally from Colombia. And my relation to Parkinson's is through my dad. He had Parkinson's, and I was his main care partner when I was still living in Colombia. He passed in 1999, but he inspired me all the time. And that's why I've been working with the Hispanic Parkinson's community for about 16 years now. And I joined a little over a year, the Davis Phinney Foundation. And I love being here, working here as the Hispanic Community Engagement Manager.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Next, we have Danny.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danny Smith. I live in Boulder, Colorado, so I do get to pop into headquarters from time to time, which is wonderful. I am a program associate for the community engagement team, so I work directly with our ambassadors and ship out materials. So if you've ever received a tablecloth or all of the educational materials we have, probably I shipped them. My connection to Parkinson's is that my mom was diagnosed about 6 years ago with Parkinson's. So I've been aware of the foundation for a long time and very lucky that I get to now work here. So glad to be here.
Thank you, Danny. And Edna.
Hello, my name is Edna Togba. I'm calling in from Chicago despite the San Francisco background, but I really like the bridge, and I used to live in San Francisco. My connection to Parkinson's is that my dad also was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the very end of his life, which was during COVID, which is when he was in the facility. And this period of time is difficult because this is when it was the nearing the end of his life 2 years ago. So I'm just really grateful to be with everyone today.
We're so grateful you're here, Edna. I can't thank all of you enough for being here. We do have one other panelist who is having some technical difficulties, so hopefully our friend Shane is able to come on, and if so, we'll pause a little bit and have him introduce himself to everyone. But otherwise, let's start talking about life in working with Parkinson's. So the first thing that people might want to know is, what is it, other than the obvious, about Parkinson's and this world that interests you in working at the foundation? And maybe also something to consider how your person with Parkinson's feels about that. And anyone can just feel free to jump on in.
Well, I assume I should go first because I am the talker. So hello. I would say for me, the thing that is most fascinating about working in the Parkinson's world, I guess for me, is learning more and more from, I've gotten the opportunity to learn from a lot of parents as I've worked here at the foundation. As a part of the Living with Parkinson's panel, since I'm not really a part of it, I'm just in the background, but all of our panelists are so generous and giving great advice and becoming my friends. And I've learned a lot from them, from their perspectives as parents, and what it's like to be a parent who has young onset Parkinson's. And for me, that's actually helped me a lot understand my father's perspective on raising me and my younger siblings, and how he kind of relates his Parkinson's to parenting. So that's been really fascinating. As a person myself, I'm always going to be an advocate outside of the foundation for children whose parents have Parkinson's. But it's really great to work within a foundation that I get to meet people who help me navigate that kind of role. I hope I answered your full question.
You are amazing.
Next, for me, what's fascinating about working for the foundation is being able to connect with people who have Parkinson's and who have loved ones with Parkinson's. As I mentioned, my father passed away 2 years ago. This is at the height of COVID, and we were unable to see him actually until right before he passed away. And so it's been really I don't want to say rewarding, but it's been really great to be able to see people who are living with Parkinson's, how they handle Parkinson's in their everyday life, and being able to connect with their loved ones in a way that I necessarily, and my family members weren't necessarily able to do because of all of the restrictions around COVID. So I don't take any of that for granted. And I really, I just feel very grateful.
I can go next. I have kind of a fun story about how I ended up at the foundation. My father was still alive at the time, and he was struggling. My father had gotten a Parkinson's diagnosis and a terminal cancer diagnosis within months of it. Like, he was diagnosed with cancer and then a few months later diagnosed with Parkinson's. And he always saw his battle as primarily a battle with cancer. And he tended to ignore the Parkinson side and the living well piece. And apathy kicked in, and, denial kicked in, and depression kicked in, which I'm sure many people watching this panel today can relate to. And, as his daughter and as someone who loved him very dearly, I saw my father change, and I knew that he needed to do something. And so I was researching different organizations, Parkinson's organizations that could help my father. And I stumbled upon the Davis Phinney Foundation just after a Google search. And I was scrolling through it. And if you were here at the beginning of the webinar, you heard me say I live in Louisville, Colorado. Well, I scrolled to the bottom of the page. It's the Davis Phinney Foundation based in Louisville, Colorado. And I was like, are you kidding me? I Googled it. It was a half mile. The headquarters is a half mile from my house. And I was just so blown away by our resources, and the way we talk to the Parkinson's community is so different than other nonprofits. It felt so personal, and so it didn't feel stuffy. It didn't feel clinical. It felt like a friend talking to a friend, and I knew that would resonate with my father. And I happened to cold email my resume over to the foundation. There were no job openings at the time. I just sent my resume and said my background's in fundraising and volunteer management, and I would work here in a heartbeat. And a few months later, I got a job. So it was very personal, my journey here to the Davis Phinney Foundation. I was not job hunting. I was not looking to get into this field in particular. Life and my father's experiences brought me here, and I've just cherished every moment since.
What a great story, Rebecca. I didn't even realize that was your introduction to the foundation. That's so cool. Opening it up a little more, just in general, what would you all say are some of the big picture benefits that you feel like you might have from working at the foundation?
I can start, and I would love to, because the way I came to the foundation and it talks about the benefits that I perceive as someone, being part of a minority community. I'm Hispanic, foreign born, and I had the opportunity to learn about and work in collaboration with the Davis Phinney Foundation when I was working at another Parkinson's organization, and I just loved back then in 2 opportunities working in the Victory Summit in Phoenix, Arizona, and then the one in Tucson that happened just before the pandemic on December of 2019. I love the way that the foundation really makes the effort to be inclusive, especially in my case with the Hispanic community, and not only inclusive in the sense of making sure that we can participate, but also in the sense of giving the opportunity for the members of the community to be represented, for their voices to be heard. And I just love that when, I was not working at the foundation, and when I had to make a change in my lifestyle due to long COVID, then the first the first thing that I thought about was like, I would love to work with the Davis Phinney Foundation. If I have to leave my current job, that will be my go-to, my first goal. And I'm just so happy that it happened. And at the foundation since August last year. And one of the benefits is that I not only get to do that for myself, but for the whole Hispanic community, because we're currently working, our Hispanic Community Engagement Program is open to anyone in the Hispanic community, wherever they live. So I think that's pretty awesome.
I'll talk a little bit about some of the benefits that I experience. And I'll say a little bit more about the first question, or a little bit of an answer to the first question too. So I landed at the foundation. I went to the website and I found a job was open that seemed like a good fit for me. And I reached out to Polly, and it didn't work out at that time. But it was a great process. I enjoyed meeting Polly and the rest of the folks I met. And, down the line, we just stayed in touch. And actually, I was driving across the country to move to Bend, and I reached out to Polly to say, hey, I'm going to be passing through Denver. And she invited me to just stop by for a cup of coffee. And that we just kept in touch. And then something else came up, and here I am. I share the perspective that the foundation's materials and the approach that the foundation took made a positive impression on me. And that's why I wanted to be here, because I just found it to be such a different tone than other resources I was finding, and also in some senses more detailed tone. The EVC was a great resource that I encountered, and I was like, wow, this is like I wanted this when I was first diagnosed, and I didn't find it immediately, but I just was really impressed by that. So as far as benefits,
Chris, can I pause you for 1 second? Can you explain more what the EVC is in case
sure.
The audience don't know?
Yeah, so the EVC is, as far as I know, it's still the only resource like it. It just provides basically any question I had in the early days of my diagnosis that I wish I had an answer to or for is in the EVC. So I was like looking at all these journal articles, reading all this research material, and so that was very challenging for me. And I love doing it, but it's challenging. And a lot of those answers that I found in detailed articles were in the EVC in much more easy to understand language. So as far as benefits, I think the number one benefit for me is just being exposed to the community. Not only the community of people at the foundation and the people, the people I get to work with, but the people that I get to meet in the Parkinson's community nationwide and even globally. My exposure to great ideas and passionate people is so much more pronounced now than it was before. And that's just it's amazing. And so I'm really grateful for that. That's the main benefit for me, for sure, is getting to meet all the incredible people with so much energy and so much passion, so many ideas.
Can I jump in really quick? And I'd like to say one of the main benefits that I've really experienced in the past few months, and I hope you don't think this is facetious, but it really is working with Chris. So another thing that has been a huge benefit for me is because my father had young onset Parkinson's, I didn't really know anyone with young onset Parkinson's. Not sure, Claudia. So it was really difficult for me to kind of see what other people's journeys were, what they were feeling, kind of like ask questions, because I don't necessarily want to be harassing my father all the time. Like, what are you feeling? What's going on right now? But Chris is more than welcome to be harassed. But he's also just so great in helping us all kind of understand what we need to say to you all as well. Like, what information are you guys looking for? And Chris is like, well, I'm looking for this because I have Parkinson's. And I think that he's just such a huge asset to the foundation. And I'm so grateful that he's here. And I will take any opportunity to compliment him.
Well, thanks, Sam. I mean, that's kind of exactly, I could say the exact same thing going the other direction. I learn from everybody on the panel now and from people in the community more generally every day. And it's really a blessing because my experience is not the only experience. And so I get to learn other approaches I might take to improve my own quality of life, and also just get a sense of what else is going on in the world for people that have a similar circumstance to me. So it's really, really a blessing. And I appreciate you too, Sam. So thanks for being here with me.
I love the Love Fest. There is a lot of love amongst the Davis Phinney Foundation staff. I think we all feel it every day, no matter what our job role is or what our situation or connection to Parkinson's is. I did want to pause for just 1 second. There was some, Chris kept saying EVC. That is our Every Victory Counts manual. And Polly dropped that into the chat for you. It's a free resource. We also have a Every Victory Counts manual specific for care partners, completely separate manual, but you can put in a request for either either one or both using the link that Polly provided. And maybe we can have somebody else drop that back in the chat again so you don't have to scroll all the way back up. But Chris said amazing things about the EVC. It really is an incredible resource. And yeah, we encourage you to grab one if you'd want one. Anyone else want to share any of the wonderful feel-good things, the benefits about working at the foundation?
Yeah, I can speak a bit about, just because my journey to this role is sort of similar to Chris's in that, I connected a few years earlier with Polly and our executive director, and, chatted about what it would be like for me to work as a part of a team that at that point, I think it was, creating content. And it felt a little too personal for me at the time. Just with, my mom had only been diagnosed for a couple of years. We were still trying to figure out what the future was going to look like. I decided not to move forward, but stayed in touch. And then I saw this role open on the community engagement team, which, I love figuring out ways for people to engage in their own communities and find ways that we can support them and create, the materials and whatever else, the support structures they need to live well with Parkinson's. And I think that, it helps so much, like seeing other people live these really wonderful, robust lives with Parkinson's. My mom lives in California. Like I said, live in Boulder, Colorado, and it helps, to have this experience, seeing all these other people, so that I can go back and take all this information or all these wonderful stories that I learned from our community and my coworkers. It's amazing and so beautiful. And I get to take that back to her and, share these different ways that she can maybe enhance her life. So it really has been a truly extraordinary experience.
I'd like to piggyback on what Danny shared. When I was asked to be a part of the panel, I originally said no because I was grieving. As I said, it's been 2 years, and this was kind of like my father passed away in December, and this was like the start of the wind down of his life, and it's just been very difficult, and I didn't think I wasn't going to be able to participate because it, as Danny shared, it felt too personal, and also because I was away from him during that period of time when he was diagnosed, when he was kind of alone in his facility because of COVID. And I think for me, the bigger picture is being able to share resources with people so that they are able to live their best lives every day, whether that's like I had breakfast with my husband, or I'm, going to go see my granddaughter's play, or I went for a long walk today, or I woke up today, like whatever it is. It's just, for me, it's just always reassuring every single day to get that kind of reminder of how precious life is. And no matter what you're going through or dealing with, you have other people who are also going through things. But this community is like very transparent and very, I don't know. It just, I always just feel good after experiences with either my colleagues or with donors or with people who have Parkinson's, and helping them to connect with different resources to help their lives be better. So that's kind of like the big picture for me. So thank you, Devin, for continually nudging me about this panel. I appreciate it.
Only in the gentlest way possible. I anticipated getting choked up during this panel today, and Edna, thank you. You've done it. It means so much that you're here, and I'm trying to keep it together here on camera. Whew, good stuff. So now that we have parsed through how wonderful things can be and how much we love each other, let's take a deep breath and delve into maybe the more challenging aspects of working in Parkinson's when you also have such a close, intimate connection to Parkinson's. If anyone feels comfortable tackling that, I figured it would be you, Samantha. Let's go.
Well, yes, of course it would. So I have kind of gone up and down like a roller coaster with this. It really kind of depends on the day and what I'm learning. So as a part of the education and content team, what I get to do, I get the great privilege of taking Chris's beautiful written words and then putting them on our blog, on our website. And sometimes I learn something fun and exciting. Like I learn about new medications, or I learn about Duopa pumps or something like that. Like I learn really cool things. But then there are other days where I have to help write articles about advanced Parkinson's or about dystonia, which is my dad predominantly suffers from dystonia as opposed to dyskinesia. And those days can be really, really hard, especially because I also don't live in the same state as my father. And that's really difficult for me to not be next to him because I'm just always worried about him. That's kind of what happens when you spend 28 years knowing your dad is sick. I mean, well, whatever. So those are the really hard days where when I have to deal with the fact that I'm like, okay, I'm reading about this. This is physically happening to my dad right now, and I'm having to witness other people dealing with it, and I can't go home to help him. I will say, one of the things that has made it a little bit easier is I asked my dad to become one of our ambassadors. So now during leadership conference, when I have to go even farther from him, he gets to come with me. And that's pretty nice because I like my dad being next to me pretty much all the time.
So I have something that's kind of related to that. Something that's hard for me sometimes is that I know so many people now, and I see so many different ways that Parkinson's can go in a person's life, that it's hard for me to like think about my own future sometimes. You know, I don't know necessarily. I know everybody's trajectory is different. I think most people with Parkinson's are pretty well acquainted with that notion, but it's a little disorienting sometimes to see all the things that could possibly be the way my trajectory goes, and that's a little hard. Another way that comes up for me personally is that, you know, I see this role for myself as one of like really immense responsibility, because I feel like I'm a little bit of a representative for the broader community of people with Parkinson's. And I have like a huge microphone that I can amplify concerns with. And so one of the things that's really hard is that my firsthand experience gives me this perspective on how hard this is living with Parkinson's. And I just care so much about that experience for so many people. And I want to be responsive to all the concerns that people raise and all the things I see people dealing with. And there's just, I mean, I could say so much about this, but the simple thing is there's just not enough time to give as much energy to all of the different ways that Parkinson's affects people's lives. So I always feel like I'm a little bit not doing enough. And, you know, it's just, that's a challenge. And I don't, you know, I'm never going to win that battle because there's so many ways and there's so many people with so many concerns. But I just want to say that it's a challenge, but I'm so honored to be trusted to tackle it. And I want to invite anybody who has a concern that they think they want support with, or they think maybe might be worth highlighting, please let me know. And, you know, just be aware that, you know, it's something that's hard for me to always filter through and get all the work that I really want to do. But I love the fact that I'm trusted to do it. And I feel so honored to be in this role to be able to help as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, I think kind of to what Chris is saying, and working with Devin and the rest of the team, it's really hard, right? Like it's not an easy path, yet the community here and the staff is so inspirational and so tight. I told myself I wasn't going to get choked up, but here I am. It's hard to find a balance sometimes of talking about the hard stuff, right? But yet, again, this community is so powerful and inspirational and upbeat and positive, and that's what thrives me to come to every day is to make sure that we continue to support you guys the way you need to be supported and give you the resources and the community that you need and connecting everybody. But it's hard. It's a hard work. And this team is really passionate about what they do. 15 years later, I still get worked up thinking about my mother-in-law, right? If she only had half of the resources that the Davis Phinney Foundation provides today, she might still be with us. She, like, very similar to Rebecca, she got cancer, like Rebecca's father. So she had multiple things that were fighting with her, but I truly believe she'd be here today. She was 60 years old when she passed away. But if we just had some of these amazing resources that are here today, her life could have been extremely different. And so that's what is so hard, but so beautiful about working here, in my opinion.
Thanks, Beth.
And I totally can relate to that, Beth, because when my dad had Parkinson's, as I said, we were living in Colombia, and at the time there was absolutely nothing available. I mean, nothing, not even information or a flyer, nothing, not for him or for our family. And at the time I was working as a family practice physician, and that wasn't as helpful as I thought it was going to be. So it was it was a sad experience, both for him, for our family, and but I also feel sad about that. But many times I also feel so thankful that I'm able now to help so many other people who otherwise will be living the difficult path that my dad had to walk on. So I am trying to balance the sad feelings with all the time saying we can do so much more now for the community that I am part of, and not only providing services or information, but also having them as leaders and having them guiding our steps. And I think that's super important, and being able to empower this community. So, and I know somebody in the chat was asking about the possibility to listen to this in Spanish. So if you send me an email again, Janet, I will be able to guide you in the comment section.
Yeah, I can chime in next. I think I have very little to say that hasn't already been said, other than I know that it is recognized within the foundation for staff by leadership of how difficult this is. And when I took this job, the final interview I had was with our executive director, Polly. And she sat me down knowing that my dad was living with Parkinson's and said, can you do this? Like, can you live in the Parkinson's world in your personal life and in your professional life and never have a break from it? And I thought about it at the time, and I was like, I think so. But the truth is, you really don't know until you step into a role and you're working 40 plus hours a week. And a lot of people, it is too much. And then, there's others who, we find ways to work through it. But, the thing that I get so much, same with Edna, my father passed away in the middle of the pandemic. He passed away 2 years ago. And it was very, very hard. It was very hard working at the foundation, having lost someone who was living with Parkinson's. But I had a community around me that understood where I was coming from and gave me grace and gave me kindness and love. But I will say also, after, like in the years that have passed, I meet so many people in our community who I see my dad in, and it doesn't make me sad. It like brings me so much joy when this is going to sound, I hope this doesn't sound too strange, but like if I see somebody who has the same Parkinson's gait that my dad had, and they walk the same, or they talk the same, or they have the same facial expressions, knowing that that's a part of their Parkinson's, and it's part of their Parkinson's manifesting, but like I see my dad in it. And there's even been a few, I don't know if there's anybody watching now who I've said this to, but there have been a handful of people who I have said, oh my gosh, I see my dad in you. And it's a piece of him in my life still. And that's really special to me.
Can I go off on what Rebecca just said, if that's okay? I was also asked that question when I was hired, because that was another thing. And I believe Polly also asked me, can you handle this? And I had the same thing. I was like, oh, I'm fine. Like, it's all good. And then recently, my father, pretty quickly after I started working here, my father's movement disorder specialist moved across the country. And I'm sure every care partner in the chat knows that people with Parkinson's are stubborn, and it takes them a while to go to the new neurologist. And he's finally in, and he's getting help. But it was really hard for me for a couple months watching my dad degenerate again a little bit. He always calls this his progressively debilitating neurological disorder. He makes all of our t-shirts for our fundraising events say that. And it was really hard for me to see it become progressively more debilitating for him. And the thing is that with my younger siblings, they don't process Parkinson's the same way I do, because I'm the only one that really remembers my father pre-dopamine agonists, he like broke his shoulder one time from like a dyskinetic episode, I believe. I'm the only one that really remembers him from that. And so it was really difficult. And this was kind of just my favorite moment ever working at the foundation. And I don't think that people knew the importance of it to me, but so like I mentioned earlier, our leadership conference is when we take our ambassadors and our HPC leaders, and we all come together and we like talk about what we want to do. Sorry, in the chat. But this year my mother could not come, and I was going to be my dad's primary care partner. And it was really scary for me because my mom has been the primary care partner my whole life. And every single person at work was like, no, go, you're fine. Go spend time with your dad. Where's like, people would give me updates throughout the day if I was doing something else. They'd be like, your dad's over here. They'd walk him to places. Nobody left him alone. And my dad has little velociraptor hands. And so people were helping him like hold on to like cups and everything. And it just meant a lot to me that I didn't feel alone in care partnering, which I know since I work for a Parkinson's Foundation, of course I wouldn't, but it was so great to know that my team was behind me in that way, that I wasn't alone in that. And I think also that goes for, and I mentioned them again earlier, so I'm just going to go back to them, but I saw Kat and Doug in here. I have made such amazing friends in the Parkinson's community who have also, if I hadn't had this job, I don't think I would have been able to meet those people who every day, like, make me just feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Their kids are in this. They're in this. Their partners are in this. Their friends are in this. Like, we aren't all alone. And Kat is helping me write a book. And I just send Doug cookies all the time because I love him. But I just think that this foundation has connected us with such amazing people that make my life dealing with Parkinson's, even as a care partner, so much better.
So I want to take the question, Rebecca and Sam, that you just said. Polly asked you, can you do this? And I want to twist that a little bit about right now, because obviously you're doing it. You prove that you can do it. So I'd love for everyone to tell us how. How are you doing it? What are your coping strategies? What are the ways that you're dealing with it when doing this double duty of living with and working in gets to be a little too much or too heavy for you?
I'll answer that really quickly. I don't do anything. I say that because it's our community that does it for me. I won't call her out by name, but I got a text earlier this week from someone in our community who told me, who reiterated how important the work we do is. And I had had a tough day, and just out of the blue, just thanked me for the work. And, you know, we get, it's you all who are watching this. Like, I don't have coping mechanism, or I don't have great coping mechanisms other than just like hearing from the people who we change your lives, and you tell us that. What other job do you get to have where somebody texts you and says, you've changed my life? That's not normal. And it just is so beautiful when it happens, and it happens frequently.
Not normal in the best possible way.
Yes.
Yeah, I can answer the question really quickly too. I mean, for me, the question, like, do I get fatigue? And this is interesting. I wasn't asked this question when I was, my friends asked me the question. Well, I have a friend who's a physician, and at one point early in my diet, when I was recently diagnosed, he said to me, "Chris, you got to stop. You are going way too deep into this." And I said, "No. I mean, that's just me. You know, I'm going to do this work regardless of the circumstances that I'm in. I'm going to be researching. I'm going to be writing about this." And so for me, it doesn't feel like double duty. It's just my life. You know, I mean, it's like it's not always great. You know, it's hard. I do feel tired sometimes, but you know, I have this. I love to write. I love exercise. This community is important to me, and I'm going to learn everything I possibly can about Parkinson's anyway. So it makes it hard. The challenge is certainly there, but I don't feel like it's too much, even though it is. I mean, it's too much because I have Parkinson's, right? I mean, that's the truth. But it's not too much because I'm working in it. It's too much because it's just there's so many things. You know, it's like such a challenge generally. But I don't feel the fatigue from doing double duty because I'm just living my life. And plus I get to play with commas sometimes, you know, it's also just, I get to write. So that's different. You know, it's like not always Parkinson. Sometimes it's commas.
Anybody else want to share about what you like to do to balance?
Yes, I can share. I agree with Rebecca and Chris that this is the perfect place for me to work. It is a blessing to be part of this community, but I also know that for me is also a challenge, because it challenges me to be the best version that I can, and sometimes also to represent a large community. But what I try to do is think that it's not just on me, and just, you know, I have to pass the baton to other people in the community who are amazing leaders, and those are now our ambassadors, our Hispanic ambassadors. So I just I'm very thankful for them as well. And I know that sometimes what's hard for me is to stop working, because I love it so much that sometimes I tend to overdo, and my husband sometimes has to knock on my door to say, "Hey, it's time to get out and do something else." But I guess that's a good problem to have. You know, loving your work, but trying to balance with at least going out to the butterfly garden that I like to have at home.
Well, I don't know if anyone's going to have a brilliant, compelling answer to this next question, since you're all so invested in what you do, and obviously you're very happy to be here and are such an asset to this community. But if you didn't work at the foundation and didn't work in Parkinson's, what would you want to be doing with your life?
I can speak to this one and tie in a little bit of my answer to the last question. I study counseling psychology in my free time. And I can get really caught up in like holding this space for other people in this role, and, you know, in my academic life. And if I'm not like feeling my own feelings, then that can really catch up with me. And so, yeah, so just yesterday, I finally determined like a phrase for this thing I've been doing, and I call them feeling walks. So I just like put on my favorite like playlist or whatever and go on a walk, and I have a nice trail out my back door, which is helpful and unique and a total privilege. But that it's this time where I'm just by myself walking and like feeling all the feelings that I didn't give myself space to feel like throughout the week. So if I weren't doing this work, I would still be holding space for people, but in a more of a mental health capacity, which is something that I don't feel like people talk enough about in the Parkinson's community. You know, I think so my hope is to kind of merge those two worlds.
Definitely. I love that, Danny.
I don't know if from this
Oh.
conversation we have realized that I am obsessed with my dad, but if we haven't yet, my dream career was that I was going to be an actress because he was an actor and I wanted to be a professional actress like him. And then I ended up getting my own head trauma. And so I couldn't do the full long days that he also couldn't do anymore. So if I wasn't doing this, I would I might want to be a teacher again. I was a fourth grade teacher, or I genuinely love disability advocacy. This job has really shown me that this is where my heart is. So even if it wasn't Parkinson's, it would be for something else, because I think as a Gen Z, I think that our generation is really, really, I think what's awesome about our generation is that we're really strong about advocacy and advocating for everybody. And that is what matters the most to me. And so if it wasn't Parkinson's, it would be something else. But this is what I love to do.
Thanks, Sam.
Well, I was going to joke and say that is winning the lottery an option, and then riding full time with Team DPF, so I can actually get on a bike at a Team DPF event and not have to work it.
100% yes, that is an option.
Fine. I'm going to do that. I want to get on my bike.
I love it.
I don't know. That's a hard one for me. I'd either have to go the sports route because I'm a huge sports fan. I played soccer through college. So it'd either have to be sports or like Kids Babies Foundation, something like everybody here knows I have a massive thing for children and especially babies. So something with, NICU or something with little babies that are struggling or young kids that need help. I would go one of those two directions, probably.
I want to kind of piggyback on what Danny was sharing about her feelings walk. So I live in Chicago, but I live on the Lake Michigan, which is like as big as the ocean, and it's really beautiful and calming. And I go for walks first thing in the morning, so I always see the sun rise, and I go for like during my lunch break. And then I go in the evening so I can see the sun set. And I study photography. That was I was double major in college, and I was like, I'm going to be a photojournalist, but ended up doing other things. So I think that if I wasn't working for the foundation, I would probably be trying to find a way to share my daily photographs with people and sell my work more than I already do, because I just feel such like an affinity to nature. And I think it's part of that living well. Like, maybe you don't live on the water, maybe you don't live like at the base of a mountain, but you can go outside and you can like get energy from nature, from the sun, from the air, from whatever, and that will improve your life. And that also have like a running soundtrack that goes along with that, with like different, because I used to work for an orchestra. I love classical music, so I'm always like playing whatever in the background as I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, this is such a beautiful movie. I wish everyone can like experience this 6:30 a.m. great start to the mornings, great start to the day. So I think that if I wasn't working at the orchestra, I would be a full-time artist, really. So.
And I want to encourage you to share more of your stuff within the foundation. I want to see it.
I'll share it with more people. I feel like I share it with like a couple people here and there, but I will definitely start sharing it more.
Cool. Chris,
Yes. Oh, I was going to say, just please do Edna, because I think I would be on arias as well, probably. I love painting, and probably I will be working along with Edna and Sam, doing painting workshops for people with disabilities. So that could be something that I could work on.
yes, please. That sounds incredible.
I don't know that I have a great answer for this question about what I would do if I wasn't doing this. It's kind of a perfect fit for me, and I feel really blessed to be able to say that. But if I was gonna, I'll answer the question a couple ways, and I'll do it as quickly as I can. Everybody that works for the foundation knows that I say too many things, I go on far too long. I'll try to be quick. I had an idea for a business I would start. I'm not going to tell you what it is, though, because I don't want to give it away. It's too good of an idea. It might, there's a couple ideas in that way anyway. So I'm going to say something that might be a little bit controversial to answer this question in a general way, but I want to just start off by saying one thing that's really great about the Davis Phinney Foundation is that we're super lean. We are very efficient. We get a lot out of a relatively small group of people. But I don't think it's a surprise that, working in the nonprofit space it's not the best way to make a lot of money. So that's a hard thing for me because it's likely that my working years will be shorter. It's not necessarily the case, but it's a distinct possibility. So for me, if I wasn't doing something that I so deeply care about, I would maybe want to go the direction of just trying to maximize the amount of money I can make and just do whatever I can to get the most money just to give myself the best possible future. And that's a hard thing. That's a challenge for me with regard to Parkinson's generally. Secondarily, I might go the complete opposite direction and minimize the amount of time I work to maximize the amount of time I can exercise. And take the advantage of trying to make the best my health be as well tended as I possibly can. So I don't know what I would do, but those are the factors for me. And so I'm really happy in a certain way that I found this middle ground where I have this. It's kind of a great fit for me, and I'm in an excellent organization working with such lovely people and getting to meet so many great people. So I'm getting fed in these important ways. So it's a hard answer though. Hard question.
I do have one more question. I just want to shoot around the room really quickly. But before we do, I just want to thank everyone so much for joining us today and spending a little bit of time getting to know roughly a third, actually. This is almost a third of the Davis Phinney Foundation staff that you're seeing on screen today. So yeah, there you go. Thank you so much. And so for the panel, the final thing I would love to know, and I'm sure everyone would love to know, is just in general, because practicing gratitude is important, not just because we're going into a holiday week. For what are you thankful?
In general, I am thankful for my health. I am thankful that the SAG-AFTRA strike is over, so everybody could talk about the Hunger Games. And I am thankful that I have this 2-second opportunity to please tell everybody who has young onset Parkinson's, your kids want to love you. And if you tell them that you have Parkinson's, they will not hate you. They just want to love you, because not enough people know that. And I have wanted to say that publicly for forever. I hope that you all know that your kids just love you and want to help.
Thank you, Sam.
I'm grateful for the ability to have the space, right? Because sometimes we're not in that space, but I'm currently in a space of being very appreciative of nature and going out into nature as often as I can, and sharing photographs with my friends and my loved ones. It's a small thing, right? To be able to be like, oh, look, the sun is rising. But not everyone is able to see that. And it really does help people, and it helps me. And I'm really grateful for just having the space to be appreciative of the beauty of nature, and then also wanting to share that with my loved ones.
I agree with Edna. I'm thankful that we work and we exist in a space that we are allowed to be vulnerable. We're allowed to cry, as we saw today. There's not too many organizations that I think provide this type of space. So I'm thankful for my coworkers. I'm thankful for this community. I think we've really built something really special here at the Davis Phinney Foundation.
Thanks, Rebecca.
And I want to say that I'm thankful for family. That when I mean family is to be so blessed to have so many families. My family in Colombia, my friends' family, my Parkinson's family, and my Davis Phinney Foundation family. So that's a real blessing.
Yeah, I'm on Team Claudia. I agree that I feel I'm so lucky in so many ways, and one way in which I'm lucky is that my friends and family are like the absolute rock stars, and so I'm really lucky in that way. But I'm also really lucky that I had like so far I've been very blessed with the care I've received with regard to Parkinson's, and I know not everybody has that blessing, and so I just feel really grateful and thankful that that's the way my life has gone. And so that's something important to me. And then also just getting to work with such a great group of people. The people that aren't on this screen are just as incredible as the people who are on this screen. So, I'm really glad to get to know all of them. So that's great too. And my dog's awesome.
Always shout out the dogs. Yes, very important.
Just briefly, I am super grateful. Yes, it's so nice to show up in person or on Teams to a group of people who are just so fun and funny. Shout out to my community engagement team. And just willing to, yes, give our energy to do work like this. And yes, I'm so grateful for my family and friends that I can turn to outside of this work for the support that I need.
Thanks, Danny.
I'm super grateful for my family and my 5 kids. Super grateful for this team and my marketing team who are fantastic, and to serve you guys. I'm very grateful to be here.
This has been amazing. This has been a really wonderful, roughly 60 minutes. And all of my fellow DPF staff on the screen, thank you for everything. Thank you for being here.